Hey guys, this is Julia Newell, and I did my project over schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a chronic disorder that is psychological, which means that it affects your mind. Schizophrenia affects thinking, feeling, and behavior, and is often referred to as a loss of touch with reality. So looking into what causes schizophrenia, scientists believe that schizophrenia is caused by a combination of genes, environmental factors, brain chemistry, and brain structure. Gene specifically is talking about hereditary, and scientists believe that not one specific gene causes the disorder, but they think that multiple genes can cause schizophrenia. Environmental factors include pregnant women getting influenza. In this case, antibodies enter the uterine placenta and disrupts the central nervous system of the fetus, which affects the neurotransmitters inside the brain of dopamine and serotonin. Because of this finding, pregnant women are now advised to be vaccinated in all 3 trimesters of pregnancy. And then moving on to brain chemistry and structure, scientists believe that imbalance of interrelated reactions of the brain's neurotransmitters, dopamine and glutamine, cause schizophrenia. A general symptom of schizophrenia is having excess dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter that regulates movement and emotional responses. History of schizophrenia and now understanding. In 1911, schizophrenia was often misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder and depression due to having similar symptoms of repressed emotions and influenced speech. It was later found that schizophrenia had a unique symptom of auditory and visual hallucinations. These symptoms scared the public and actually resulted in schizophrenics being put into insane asylums. At the time, people with schizophrenia were also advised to go to church for healing because they didn't know exactly how to treat the symptoms. Schizophrenia was later treated with antipsychotics, which were infrequently administered due to reports of having less hallucinations. These antipsychotics actually worked, and so much so that the schizophrenics thought that the hallucinations were going away. Although the downside to having these antipsychotics is that infrequently administered antipsychotics cause tardive dyskinesia, which is a reduce in dopamine fluctuations, and also caused a physical twitch. Now psychotherapy, also known as behavior therapy, is used to help behavior and administer medication frequently to schizophrenics. Dr. Emil Kraepelin first diagnosed a patient with schizophrenia in 1887, calling it dementia praecox. He mistakenly believed that the illness only occurred in young people and that it inevitably led to mental deterioration. The actual term schizophrenia has only been around for less than 100 years, but the disease has most likely been around for all of mankind. Eugene Buehler coined the term schizophrenia in 1911. He believed Kraepelin's name for schizophrenia was misleading because schizophrenia didn't always lead to mental deterioration and was actually found in more older people than younger people. In 2003, researchers found that schizophrenia was not generalized and has phases instead. The first phase included the acute phase, which was less vigorous hallucinations. The second phase included the maintenance stage, which was vivid cognitive affecting hallucinations and led to people believing that they were psycho. These findings led to a change in distribution of antipsychotic medication. Where is schizophrenia prevalent and how many people are currently impacted? It is believed that almost 1.2% of the U.S. population suffers from schizophrenia, and that there are about 51 million people worldwide with this diagnosis. In less developing countries, there were less schizophrenic diagnoses. This could be due to having less advanced technology to diagnose with. What is the rate of new cases? There are about 1.5 million people predicted to be diagnosed with schizophrenia this year. Rates of mortality include schizophrenia dying 2 to 2 times earlier than the general population due to severe mental disorder and motor function problems. Suicide and depression are also causes of death, and schizophrenia's mode of transmission is genetically passed down or through exposure to the influenza virus when still a fetus inside the womb. Moving on to the pathology of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia affects the brain's neurotransmitter dopamine, which secretes into the bloodstream and affects emotional response and motor functionality. A second generation of antipsychotics, commonly referred to as the atypical antipsychotics, block D2 receptors as well as a specific subtype of serotonin receptor called the 5-HT2A receptor. It is believed that this combined action of D2 and the 5-HT2A receptors treat both the positive and negative symptoms of schizophrenia. These enzymes block the dopamine and serotonin neurotransmitter receptors so that they can't fire to release dopamine and serotonin, which are the hormones that's causing the symptoms of schizophrenia because the receptors release too much. What is the time sequence for schizophrenia and major signs and symptoms of the disorder? Schizophrenia is actually lifelong once you develop it, but there are treatments to get you through the stages of schizophrenia. There are 3 stages of schizophrenia, and the first one is called prodromal schizophrenia. This is when a person begins to develop the disorder, but before the full-blown psychosis occurs. The second phase is the active phase, also known as the acute phase. This includes hallucination, paranoid delusions, and disorganized speech and behaviors occur. The third stage is the residual stage, which is when psychosis is beginning to subside. The negative symptoms still occur, like social withdrawal, lack of emotion, and low energy, but the positive symptoms are now completely gone, which included the visual and auditorial hallucinations. Schizophrenia does have the ability to form because of contact with influenza virus inside the womb, so this would be their sequelae. I also came up with 2 questions that I didn't know the answer to and haven't researched yet. My first one was, why are men more susceptible to having schizophrenia? And then my second question was, are there any other conditions that can worsen the symptoms of schizophrenia? And then last but not least, these are my works cited pages for all of the information I found online.